Aloha, everybody. Yo, yo, yo. We are live from rainy Santa Cruz, California. And you may hear Ananda in the background because when I originally booked this call, I didn't realize. Hi, everybody. Yo, yo, yo. Whoa. We are live from rainy Santa Cruz, Okay, woo, technical difficulties there. I'm just broadcasting my own sound back at me. 8 viewers. Let's see who's here. So excited, you guys, for this conversation, and I'm really stoked on this format, even though there seems to be... Okay, I don't know what to do. It's broadcast back, so I'll get rid of the headphones. Technology. One sec, give me a second. Let's see if this can help. Anyway, as I was saying, sorry, we had technical difficulties there, but I think we're good. I'm super stoked to be here and talk about all these great topics we have to talk about today. It's President's Day here in the US, I was saying, and I didn't realize that meant Ananda was going to be home from school. Whoops. Anyhow, I got so much to share with you all. It's raining. God, we had a drought here for years, and now it's a flood. It's been flooding for so long. Let's just do a little bit of technical stuff. If there's anyone out there on the chat, can you type back at me? I'm getting my own words back at me. Are you? Is everything working out okay technically? If there's an issue I got to fix, let me know, and then we'll get on with our awesome conversation. Oh, I see. I know what it is. Okay, got it. There we go. Okay. I figured it out. There was a window open with my own sound playing back at me. Week by week by week, we're getting so many things figured out here. Anyway, a few false starts there, but we're grooving. Who's online? 10 viewers. I want to see who's I'm talking to. The group chat's available. You guys on the top right corner, there's a chat. You may have to open it up, people watching, by clicking on the chat icon. And definitely feel free to shoot questions off as we talk. And as you know, we'll post this broadcast up later to YouTube. God, thanks so much, everyone, for checking out the last one. We talked a lot about embodiment. And today's topic is going to be about adjustments. I want to take a little bit of time also in these talks to just talk about how we can collectively co-create our movement. And one of the things I've been thinking about a lot recently, so I'll take the first maybe 5 minutes and just talk about how to use the term Blissology, because a lot of people are confused about this. And we have so much collective momentum, both from the sense of really great, what our great friend Steph Windsor calls Dharma. The Blissology Dharma is so strong. The idea of connecting yoga and nature and community, about getting rid of tension in the body so we open up to our heart's message. And on top of that, we have amazing people around the world that are sharing this stuff. So it's time to really make this movement more of a collective movement. And to do this, we have to really get clear on how to use the term Blissology. And I know, especially for people who did the training like more than 2 or 3 years ago, it's very confusing how to use the term. And we have a lot of clarity to share with you on that. So I've got this written out. I'll just share this with you. How to use the term Blissology. So basically, as you know, that in the last kind of half decade, I've been really trying to change the training format from just the 200-hour to the 500-hour training format, because I realized that it's so impossible to think that you can possibly perfect these skills in just a 200-hour training. So as much as that module is unreal, it's my favorite thing to do, it's powerful, I'm committed to running the most amazing training program in the world, but it's just the beginning. So that's why we have our 500-hour modules. Again, as I mentioned the last time, the goal of the 500-hour module is that if I couldn't make it to, let's say, teach at Wanderlust, you could. In fact, you will. I plan to send people in my stead a lot. In 10 years from now, I'll be 60. Whoa, almost. So there's a lot to think about, and I want to really make sure that everyone's qualified, comfortable to share our values of Blissology in your own voice. So here it is, how to use Blissology. Give me a second, I'm plugging my mic. If you're at the 200 to 450 hours of Blissology modules, then please use the term Blissology inspired. That's totally fine to use that. And then after you've done all the modules, so all 500 hours, plus submitted teaching video for our approval, then you'll be able to use the term Blissology certified. In upcoming broadcasts, I'm going to share with you some of the things that open up once we've done the 500-hour certification. I've got a whole really cool revenue stream that I'm really looking forward to introducing, and I have not seen this in any other teachers training course, and I spent a long time thinking about it to make sure that everyone gets their return investment back in spades that completes the 500-hour modules. So again, just summary in that 200 to 450 hour trainings use Blissology inspired, and that means on your bios, on your social media posts, anywhere like that, posters. And if you've completed the 500-hour certification, then we'll use Blissology certified. Now, here is, and actually, you know what, Kat, if you're watching, if you can post in our chat, we actually have a link to that. Let me see if I can find it super quick. Yeah, anyway, I'll post it up before the end of the broadcast. If Kat can't hear me, we'll post it in our chat what that link is, so you can see all the things that I'm referring to. One thing I want to say is that as much as possible, try and send, like you would do if you're a scientist, to use footnotes and quoting and crediting other scientists. Try and think of yoga the same thing, because in our kind of era that we're in, where everyone could just download any music and not really own it, the same thing's happening with our yoga, but ideas really are currency. And so, for example, if you say toes before pose, that's just a small example. There's a lot of things we could say in your classes. What would be nice if you said, our Blissology mantra is toes before pose, or one cool expression that we use in Blissology is toes before pose. And then I think you see the difference. That really helps to credit things back, and so people in their mind go, oh yeah, we can't just borrow this, and it will help our collective movement. This will help you be more abundant also. Another example is if you say in social media, for example, nothing to prove, everything to share. If you can just credit Blissology, that would be amazing. Then for social media, the hashtags, of course, are Blissology and Bliss Army. And you can also use Upward Spiral, Blissed and Blessed, Conduit for Love, and of course, we love this one, hashtag Nature Appreciation. The idea is there that you just take something, a picture somewhere beautiful in nature, and it's not a selfie, it's a selfless-y. No body in the picture, just the beauty of nature is nature appreciation. Also, I really would love us all to encourage the studios that you are teaching at to list Blissology yoga as a yoga style. That's going to be a bit of a challenge, but I think that if we collectively do this, it should be great. And again, I wrote something out, and we'll post this on here, so you can copy and paste this, because the next question, of course, is always, what is Blissology yoga? Here it is, and then we'll move on to our talk about adjustments. Blissology yoga emphasizes intelligent alignment, somatic intelligence, and energetic awareness. A Blissology yoga class is designed to release tension in our bodies caused by negative thought loops. When this tension leaves, we reconnect to our inherent sense of love, kindness, and wisdom that is our true nature. We also believe that nature is the greatest spiritual portal. Quiet, introspective time in nature makes us feel small, connected to all life, and profoundly grateful for the miracle of life. This leads to a life with a joyous heart. A Blissology yoga class is a ceremony that develops deep reverence for nature and community and gets us in touch with our wise guide inside. And beside every wise guide, there's a woman. This is Insia.
Hi. Oh, can anyone see me?
Yeah, I'll have to take. Go ahead. You want to say something, Liv?
No, just exciting.
Exciting stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we just addressed how to use Blissology, the term, and then we're going to move on to our topic about adjustments. And feel free again on the chat to type any of your questions up there. Some people have typed in ahead of time on our Facebook page, and I'm going to address for those ones too. But maybe since Incy is here,
Mm-hmm.
let's that's better without the light. Okay,
Yes.
Let's get Incy to talk about the post that she posted on Facebook the other day, and just the intention, the reaction about the consent cards.
Sure. So I'm always interested just in, I guess, just getting a sense of what the general yoga community thinks about different things. And I noticed an interesting post from CBC, because I read the news a lot, and it said something about, oh, here's if you're in a yoga class and you can't, you're worried about talking to the teacher whether or not you want to be touched and be adjusted. Here's a handy thing you can use. Here are these cards designed by a local artist, and you can put them on your yoga mat and flip them one way or the other. And one way, there's a side that says yes and a side that says no, and basically it communicates to the teacher that they can either adjust you or not during that class. And they were debuting them at the Victoria Yoga Conference. And CBC, for those of you that aren't Canadian, is the Canadian news service.
NPR.
Yeah, the NPR of Canada.
Or like ABC in Australia.
And so I just posted that, and I said, what do people think, yay or nay? And it was really interesting to see the discussion that resulted, because I think there's and I think it comes from a lot of different reasons. Basically, it seems like there are some people that are really for adjustments in yoga classes, and there are some people that are not, that don't even want to be touched because they've had some kind of trauma, they've had some kind of a trauma and past life experience, and also there are people who said and wrote in and said, I've never had ever thought that I wouldn't want to be touched in a yoga class, but then I went to classes where a teacher adjusted me wrongly, and I was hurt quite badly. And so since then, I've become very wary of being touched in yoga classes by a teacher that I don't know. And I think there's a lot of different points that come up for me here. Obviously, the level of the skill of the yoga teachers that are out there. Why is it also that people are going to yoga classes where they don't trust the teacher's ability to help? So those are questions. Another question that came up for me, and the original reason why I posted this, is that I think it's so interesting that we are continually in this day and age trying to curtail communication between people. Like, we're already behind our devices all the time. We're always attached to phones, to computer screens, and all of that. And then, to me, I have this perhaps it's an idealistic vision, but I have this idea and belief that when we go into a yoga class, we kind of leave all that stuff behind and shed all of that, and we can communicate at the heart level and at an energetic level. And in Blissology, this is really, really, really important, actually looking people in the eye, feeling some kind of an energy. There's a transmission that happens between us. And I know for me as a yoga teacher, I know instantly when somebody doesn't want to be touched. You can kind of feel it. You can you can feel a sense if they recoil. And also the whole idea of like, what is your intention behind adjusting people? You know, is it coming out of this idea of service, or what's motivating that?
Okay.
So yeah, so that was basically it in a nutshell. And it brought out some strong reactions. And I think that there's also the question of lineage in yoga, and there's a lot of yoga being taught these days where people don't touch anyone at all.
Great.
Physically. So.
Well, there's a lot there.
Yeah, sorry.
There's a lot there. So, Intia's right. The fundamental purpose of a Blissology class is definitely to allow us to feel our intimate connection at an energetic level. So even whether you use words, whether you use eye contact, I think the best communication a lot of times happens when your eyes are closed and you actually feel people. This came up, by the way, when we were talking about this topic. We had a great conversation about this up in Seattle a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about this concept of touch, connection, and a yoga teacher there said, yeah, an interesting thing when you look at it is in a yoga studio, and maybe I'll address this too to make sure that this has become clear from when you've done your trainings, but if the studio is, you know, big and there's not a lot of people, generally speaking, people don't put their mats as close together as possible. They will spread them out as far apart from each other as possible. It's kind of like, oh, don't touch me type feeling. And yeah, that's a thing we got to break down in the yoga class, but it has to be, it's kind of an energy field that we walk around with a lot in life, and there's a time for this, but it's so beautiful when we do create safe spaces to really let this down. And that's what a Blissology yoga class is about. Definitely, I can't speak to all styles of yoga, but definitely ours is about breaking that down. Now, that's our intention. Now, I just want to like refer some of the stuff back to the manual and just kind of go over it one by one by one by one. So this is on page 247 of the newest edition of the manual. The manual is going to have a massive overhaul for this next Bali training, and then we're going to submit it for to publisher and be published, as I mentioned, by January 2018. And then I'm telling you, your teacher training certificates will quadruple. Get all your Blissology things ready, like I teach Blissology yoga, because man, people are going to search it out after this stuff goes in print. Wait and see. Okay, so adjustments. As we remember from the trainings, we have 5 different stages of adjustments, or some people like to use the term enhancements. I like that also. You're actually enhancing the pose, maybe not even just adjusting it. So again, we start with intention. So what is my intention? And as the quickest way I can describe this is, if you've ever been adjusted by a teacher who goes, oh, I know 3rd series Ashtanga, and they're a brand new beginner, you know it's going to be a different type of adjustment than someone who has the intention of, I want to be a conduit for love. I want to share my love for life with others through my work. So get clear on your intention. And then we assessed what's wrong with the pose. And once you get that, that's just using your rational mind. So we kind of switch between our heart and our mind and go, okay, yeah, with my mind, I see this wrong. Okay, now I kind of have to go back to my heart and mind together, which is phase 3, called attunement. And that is simply coming into someone's field, touching them even for a millisecond, being in your clear place of intention and seeing if they receive you or not. And if they do not, then automatically you'll feel the breathing stop. Something will constrict. They have not let you in, and do not adjust anyone who constricts like that. The first thing I go to when I feel that in someone is, do you have an injury? If they have an injury, and we're talking flow style class where everyone else is still doing the pose. So this is you have 40 seconds to adjust someone. So it might be, if they say, yeah, I have an injury, what is it? Oh, I have a sore knee. You might say, okay, I'll come back to you on another pose, or not today, and just leave that person behind. Or if they say no and they're still not letting you in, then yeah, there might be some kind of trauma. And if you can't melt their guard, I would not adjust them. It's not your day to adjust them, and I would take the time to, especially if they're regulars, to try and talk to them at one point to see if there is a larger issue. Not trying to make you become a counselor or anything, just to open up the line of communication. If they do let you in, awesome. How do you know someone lets you in? They breathe in a fluid way. There's a movement. There's not a tightness, a shrinking back like they're really cold. Again, the key word I'm using here is melt. They have melted into your touch. Oddly, when you speak of melting, the next thing we got to do is brace. So again, how do we brace someone? You find the joint where the stretch occurs. So let me just pull out some part of our manual here at random. Okay, so I'm going to pull up side angle pose here. So side angle pose, the stretch is going to occur right here at the adductor level on this leg. So I know I need to be forward of this hip. I need to be on the hip joint right here. And then I brace that. So it means that joint does not move right there. And then I can fix the knee. I hold the knee in place. I'm going to crouch down beside a person when I'm adjusting them here. And I'm going to hold this hip and pull and rotate this hip out. But this has to be braced. So the next phase is bracing. And again, how do you figure out where you're bracing someone? This is review from our course. You figure out what muscle the joint crosses that you're stretching, and that has to be braced. And then you apply the adjustment or the connection in this case of people who are more spongy or loose. Now, what I want to comment about that is, another point, is that there is pages in the new manual, and this is going to be on page 87. So if you have an older manual, this only went in here 2 or 3 years ago. This is called the Blissology Alignment Concerns. Now, where I'm going in this conversation is Kat in Slovenia made a question, or posted a question on our Facebook page going, what do you do if you have all these beginners in the class and you want to adjust them all, but you want to keep the flow of the class going? Let me address that question. So we're moving along from looking at our 5 steps of adjustment to a specific question that Kat asked, saying, again, the scenario is, she's new at teaching and she's looking out into this class and she's trying to keep the flow alive, but she sees all these things wrong. And I think there's probably a lot of multi-processing going on of like, oh, that person's foot's wrong and that person needs to pull this back. But how do I keep the flow alive? And obviously you're never going to be able to adjust everyone. I just want you to think about something for a second, and that is, I'll get to the manual here in a second. Thousands and thousands of people have done my videos and DVDs, and I don't adjust anyone, and very rarely do I hear, knock on wood, about people getting hurt. The reason why is because the main tool we have in our last Blissology teacher lab, we talked about embodiment. When people are embodied, it's really hard for them to hurt themselves because you've opened up the feedback loop. The fundamental thing we need to do, even before we do adjustments is continuously find subtle ways of dropping this knowledge that yoga, it's back to our don't do yoga, feel yoga. Keep feeling the yoga in the body, and if anything is not comfortable, back up. And of course that sounds so simple, but things you could say are like, no one gets competitive about how much hot water they pour on themselves in the shower. Don't be competitive about how far you go in the pose. Make it about the internal experience of opening up to life energy. Things like this will really help. Now, so again, keep people embodied and keep them plugged into their feedback and out of this driven place where you gotta accomplish something at any cost. And right there, if you can do that, the chance of injury is going to go down a zillion, even in beginners. Having said that now, when you are, you know, like Kat's saying, at the front of the room, definitely you may not realize why I put these pages in the manual, but again, in the new manuals, it's going to be page 87. And what I've done, again, is gone through and listed by joint. What are the non-negotiables? So for example, here's issues in the wrist joint. You can see here there's a lot of pressure down on the wrist, or yeah, things like yeah, putting too much pressure. Here's a great one: putting too much pressure on the neck, and so the neck it's not going into the right spot in the head. Like that's something where even if you're in a flow style class, that I would recommend like stopping, either like not stopping the class necessarily, but stopping that person and just like back up. You may have to do it with your words and be like, or you may have to address that person particularly, but if you see something that's dangerous, that's going to cause an injury, then you'll want to interrupt the flow. But get to know these pages again. 87 goes all the way through in the new manual. If you don't have it, if you're did the course before we had these pages, then email us and we'll probably figure out a way to send them to you. To page 100. Yeah. Daddy. Page 99. 90 to 99. Get to know those pages. Re-look at those pages and to know the non-negotiables about what's going to really injure someone. Then I hope that makes sense. So Kat, let me know if you have more questions on that. There's lots more to talk about, but so keep people embodied, keep them tuned into their feedback loop, watch for problems that people are having that could cause injuries. Now, I have never in my whole life said, if you don't want to be adjusted, put your hand up. Back to Incia's point. And I would never, ever use a card that says, I don't want to be adjusted, put this card on me. That is me. I'm not saying that if you feel that works for you, please, by all means, do it. This is not an authoritarian thing. If that's like more your personality type, I'd say go for it. For me, my personal belief on this is that if you follow these 5 steps, if I put my hands on someone, again, not adjusting it, I'm not welcome in. If I'm not attuned with someone, I don't need to have that conversation and call someone out, or have them make a comment like, oh, I don't want to be adjusted. Now, other things about adjustments are, oh, I have a note here I want to say is like, one thing I'd say a lot, I do say a lot though, is if I do come around and adjust you, I won't start the class like this. When I'm in the class, I'm walking around adjusting people. I always say, if I do adjust you, don't take offense. So in other words, some people, when they get adjusted, they think, oh God, what am I doing wrong? Just say that I love enhancing your experience. I would say, generally speaking, the vast, vast, vast majority of people want to be adjusted. Now, let me bring up another point, and that is that the 500-hour modules I mentioned were reverse engineered. They came about because A lot of people did the trainings in the early years, just aimed for the 200 hours, and we tried to pack it all in. And I realized that was hard because it was like cramming for an exam. You can't, like, you just forget things that you cram. Yoga is so vast and beautiful and diverse, and it takes a long time to master it. So aim over a larger trajectory is what I had to remind myself. So aim over a 500-hour trajectory. And we're running this fall, probably, I'll let you know the details soon, but it'll be in September, most likely here in California, a advanced adjustment and alignment module. I really took the time to work on this because I was seeing when people were coming to assist who'd only done the 200-hour trainings. Again, I'm very proud of our 200-hour trainings, but it's an ongoing process, and adjusting is quite an intricate art. And we focus for 5 complete days on adjustments and advanced alignment techniques. Also, advanced meaning more complicated poses, both in terms of like doing things on your hands, but also off-axis poses where you combine vectors. You're not just on the sagittal plane, but you're off to the side on different ones. And we also spend a lot of time working on adjustments there. So I guarantee you after that module, you will have so much confidence in your adjusting. So just want to really remind you about that. Now, on our Hangout, any questions? Anyone have any? We just got a couple more minutes left. So anything, any questions, comments? Otherwise, I'm going to go to Jen's comment to close it all out with here. So type it in the live chat. Let me see. Type here. Open up your live chat. Just double check if there's any questions about any adjustments. Let me just pull up our Facebook page. Everyone's members of our Facebook Blissology Yoga Teacher Collective Facebook page. Okay. All right, so we're going to close it out. In closing, I want to mention a comment that Jen made, Jen Eaton, and this is going back to our previous hangout that we did. Let me get myself back here. And that is about at the end of her circle of light, she said someone came up to her and said that she felt that it went really well, but someone said that it invaded her personal safe space. Now, I've done this circle with tens of thousands of people, literally, and I've never had anyone say this, but it came out later in the conversation that this was actually a yoga teacher who said it. And we had a short conversation on our Facebook page about if there's anyone who's going to be critical of your class, it's another yoga teacher. Unfortunately, that's one of the downsides of teaching is sometimes, even though we say yoga is about being non-judgmental, it opens up the most critical judgmental side of ourselves as yoga teachers towards other yoga teachers. So my point there is, let's try not to be too guilty of that when we go to other people's classes, and at least be open to the experience that they're providing to us. And if we're just rigid going in, then God, we're going to miss out on so many chances to grow. However, having said that, back to her point with the circle of light, I asked her on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being like, oh my God, Ian just tells me to do this, but I don't really feel anything here. 10 being like, whoa, I'm a conduit for love, and I don't even know what's coming through me. Where are you on the scale? And Jen was like 10, like what's coming through me? You know, being a total conduit, then that's powerful. If you're not having those skills, then again, the yogic by nature or the yoga mind-body medicine are the best modules for those, by the way, to develop those skills. Yeah, if you are in that place, then, you know, make little comments ahead of time, like, this will feel a little bit uncomfortable at first, but once you drop into the space, the only thing weird about it is that we call this type of connection weird in modern living. Because from my experience, most often, and I think a lot of you had this experience, that people generally, when you get them in the space, it's not that they don't like the experience. The big issue is trying to get them out the door. They just drop in so much. So trust in that. First of all, the larger philosophy of really trying to connect us into our energetic connection to each other. It does not mean, again, as I started off saying, you need to talk or you need to make eye contact. I'm not asking you to stare someone in the eye lovingly. Just feel your presence towards other people and bless their energy fields. Okay, so that's the end of our, I'm keeping these things to 30 minutes. I think we're at the 30-minute mark right now. So it's been a blessing, speaking of blessings, to share this wisdom, this knowledge to you. I want to thank all my teachers, all great conduits for love in generations past. We still feel their presence in all this work, and let's commit our own selves in our own ways, whether it's with our families, our friends, or in our yoga classes, to be this conduit for love. So thanks, everyone. It's been amazing. We'll be back next month, and I'll put this broadcast up on YouTube for everyone else who couldn't join today. Peace, love, and aloha. See you all soon.